Kia ora. Welcome to this Playshop on play and pleasure. So to begin with, let's take a moment to land here in this moment, wherever you are, however you're sitting, lying, standing. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into our lower belly and practice calming and bringing everything into the now, forgetting all the worries, forgetting all the thoughts and the fears and the to-do lists. Let it go while you breathe in gently, deeply, slowly. Breathing in, knowing that this means that you're alive. Breathing out, saying something that's inspiring for you. I like to say, I know I'm free. Breathing in, I know I'm alive. Breathing out, I know I'm free. Breathing in, I know I'm alive. Breathing out, I know I'm free. Kia ora, I'm Sarah. It's great to have you here today. We're going to be talking about what play is all about. And what we were saying, or what I was saying in the out breath, I know I'm free. This is something that humans are free to do, free to play, and we need to play. So we'll find out some more about that shortly. First of all, I have a couple of whakatauki for us to consider. And the first one is actually from Plato. And Plato said, life must be lived as play. So that's wisdom back from the classic ages. And from a little bit closer, George Bernard Shaw said, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So today we're going to be talking all about play and pleasure and the importance of play for us as human beings. We'll be considering what play means for us and how this is experienced with our children as well. We'll talk about how we can create play in our normal everyday lives, and we will be experiencing play as well. So we'll crack on. First things is that you need to get yourself a piece of paper, nice big piece. Actually, a couple of big pieces of paper would be great. And a pen or a series of pens. The first thing we're going to do is be considering some questions. So get yourself into a frame where you're ready and listening. Pause in between each question and answer the question on your pieces of paper. The first question we have, I want you to take yourself back to you as a child. What do you remember playing as a child? What was fun? What were you learning while you were playing that? Just take a guess of the things you might have been learning. And what was important about your play at the time, and also looking back and seeing what was important about it. What sorts of play do you enjoy now? Now, before you say, I don't play anymore, I'm an adult, just take a moment and think about different sorts of play that you might enjoy now. We'll come up with some more shortly as well. What are the things that feel good about play? What feels good about play? Which of your senses could be stimulated through the play that you've written down, the ideas of the ways you like to play now? And then think about the other sorts of senses. Usually when we talk about the senses, we think of our 5 senses, sight, hearing, taste, touch, smell. But what other senses might be stimulated through play? And the sorts I'm talking about are that the sense of order. Some of us like to have things lined up. For us, that is playful for us. Trajectory sense, the understanding of how things move in a trajectory, wrapping things up, hiding things away. These are all a sense as well. Taking things apart, putting things together. There's different senses that are involved in terms of our understanding of the world. And there's a name for these. It's called schema. All of us have different brains. Remember, we've talked about the different parts of the brain and how our brain develops based on our genetics that we're born with and the experiences we have throughout our lives. And we all have a very unique makeup in our brain. And so schema are the ways that feel most comfortable for us to learn about the world. And same with our children. They have schema that they're interested in, that they're most drawn to. And at different times in our lives, we'll have different schema operating. So these are a bit like a sense in terms of they're a way that we make sense of the world. It's a way that has us feeling calm, has us feeling like we're excited about life. So we'll talk a little bit more about what could possibly be going on for our children as far as schema go. Now have a look at your list. How does that feel to look at a whole list of answers to questions about how you play? Go back and see if you can add any more to that list now about things that you enjoy doing, things that have your body and your brain feel good, things that you feel drawn to doing. And while we're doing that as well, have a think about what are the things that can potentially stop you freely playing. What gets in the way of free play? Now I'm thinking about things like looking good, a fear of making mistakes. Oh, what will other people say? Wanting to get it right, feeling like there's judgment, having assumptions about what play is, or when play is allowed. So have a think about times when you've felt an urge to do something and you've thought, oh no, I better not. That's not the done thing. That's not okay. And notice what were the reasons you gave yourself for not engaging in play. I know that when my children were a bit younger and I would leap up on a fence post and do some sort of dance, and the children would say, oh, Mum, stop that. So they were worried about themselves looking good with me releasing my play energy. And sometimes I went along with that, and sometimes I said, well, no, actually, I'm just going to do this and you guys can handle it. So what are the things that actually stop you from playing and get in the way? Now we're going to turn to our children. Thinking about our children and what sorts of play they enjoy. Now you'll probably need a bit of bigger piece of paper here than you had for yourself, just because us adults tend to forget about play. We forget how to play and we forget that it's important. However, children are playing all the time, and they're supposed to. That's their job. They're making sense of the world. They're helping their brains and bodies to connect up really positively so that they can really understand this world and interact with it most effectively. So, what sorts of play do your children like to engage in? What do they enjoy the most? Take a pause, write your ideas down, as many as you can think of, and come back when you're done. For each of those types of play, have a think, have a guess. What do you think they might be learning through that play? What do you think the learning could possibly be that they're getting out of that, the sorts of play that you've written down? Now I want you to go even deeper with thinking about what sorts of learning are occurring. What else underlying all of this Do you think all of the initial types of learning, do you think they might also be learning? Now, remember, they're not consciously saying, right, I'm going to play with my Lego today to help me work on my fine motor skills and my civil defense, not defense, civil engineering building skills, or they're not thinking like that. They're not doing the play in order to learn. The learning is coming through naturally. But what might be getting played out are far deeper things than just how to put blocks together and make a model of something that we see in real life. It can also be the interaction of the pieces and the characters together that could be being learned as well, if we're thinking of a Lego example. So there may be some social learning going on. There's usually social learning somewhere in there. And it's interesting, it's often a particular focus for girls, is how people interact together. And for boys, often, not always, often boys are wanting to work out how things work together, how they sound. What's the purpose of them? And then often in the girl play, there's personalities and interactions, communication. Remember, this is not for all girls and all boys. It's just some observations that we see about girls and boys and their different reasons for playing. So looking at what are the underlying possible learnings that could be occurring for our children. What are they trying to make sense of? Now, it might be the actual things that they're playing with that they're learning about. They could actually be learning underneath that about themselves and how they interact with this different sort of play or with the world, or how they're interacting with themselves. Perhaps they're doing it in an underlying way to learn how to calm themselves and put sense into the feelings that they're having. Perhaps that's what's underneath. So let's just take a guess, those deeper levels of learning that are occurring through play. For you, when you're supporting their play, there's lots of ways we can support their play, like making sure they have the items that they need, the space that they need, the time that they need in order to really get deeply into their play. They might be needing some ideas or encouragement, perhaps. They might be needing some support if things are a bit of a struggle. So what are the things that seem to work to support children's play and help them really engage fully in their play experience? So what have you noticed? Write these things down, come back when you're done. So think about what else you could do to create even more positive, supportive play environment for children. What else could you be doing to really help them engage positively and effectively in play? Write your ideas down here. There'll be things like giving them more time. So try not to interrupt and say you have to finish now. That could be a way to help them engage. Perhaps giving them the space to come up with the play themselves rather than us telling them what they need to be doing and how they need to be playing. It might be putting things in a place in your house where the children have access to the items, so they don't have to ask first. They can just go and do that play. So those could be ways that could assist children's play. Come back when you're done writing what you're planning to do, what ideas you have. And then now have a think about what sometimes gets in the way of children's play. What can get in the way of them engaging deeply in a focused way in play? So thinking about the similar ideas to what can stop us from engaging in play. It may be that they're worried about making a mess, being told off, making mistakes. maybe losing friends if people are not impressed with what they're doing. Perhaps it's being judged by others or any other unconscious blocks they've put into their play. I don't know how to do it right. I need to be helped to start. So children not being able to really hold that focus. What might be going on for them that can block that? And what might we have been doing that actually has slowed down or blocked their ability to play deeply? Come back when you're done. Now let's have a think about society's attitudes to play. So what are some of the attitudes, values, beliefs about play that you've heard picked up in society? So we're thinking about some of the judgments like, oh, they're only playing, as if playing is a very small part of a child's learning environment. Treating play as if it's a treat, a luxury, rather than a necessity. That you get to play only after the work is done. So creating a distinction between work and play, as if work cannot be playful and as if play is not work. So thinking about what are those judgments and beliefs. So another one I thought of was that play is considered not the real work or not the real learning. The real learning will come when we sit and do a lesson, whereas play is for fun rather than for learning. So these are quite strong beliefs in our society, even though science has been telling us for generations, actually, well, and Indigenous wisdom has been telling us for generations, and the science is catching up, that play is actually a child's work. It's actually the work of humans. It's actually how we learn the most effectively. So write down any more you can think of and come back when you're done. Now, we want to talk about what makes play play. So please, can you get a clear piece of paper and write down 10 ways of playing. And now that you've got 10, I want you to come up with another 10 straight away. Start stretching your mind and the possibilities of what play can be about. Now let's check whether you've got a variety of ideas on the list. Here's some that I've come up with. Playing with smiling, facial expressions, talking, laughing, being with someone in silence, singing, poetry, storytelling, thinking and saying words, mime, movement, stretching, dance, running, jumping, obstacle course, creation and doing it, adventures. Anything can be an adventure. Breathing. How can you play with breathing? Yes, that can be play. Learning about your own body, stroking your own arm, brushing your hair, self-massaging, massaging others can be play. If we think about it, everything that we do can be play. And while we're doing that, everything that we do makes a difference to ourselves, others, and the world. So that was why the title of my book was Changing the World is Child's Play. Every time we're playing, every time we're supporting our children to engage with the planet, they are making a difference in the world. We're changing the world through child's play. And we can actually create play in everything that we're doing. And we can support our children to have positive sorts of play that really benefit the world. Changing the world really is child's play. If you haven't got a copy already, go to my website, sarahagbest.global. At the bottom of the first page, you'll be able to sign up and download a PDF copy of Changing the World as Child's Play or order it on Amazon. So here's some more ideas for what we are, what sorts of play. Creative expression in any form. We don't have to have an external purpose or anything other than an internal urge saying, yeah, I want to do it. Helping others, learning about life, making mistakes and building strategies, housework, everyday life and experiences, doing nothing. Doing nothing can be play. I hope you're writing these down. These need to be on your list. Lying in the grass, watching a sunrise or a sunset, getting out in nature in any form, exploring nature in any form, building with whatever materials happen to be around you in the house or out in nature, and breaking them down again. That's play. Creating a treasure basket with household and natural items and exploring this. Those are just some more ways. So you should have quite a big list now. See why I wanted a big page. Okay, so you should have quite a big list of ways of playing now. Now we want to actually look at what actually makes play play. What is it that we know we're playing when we're experiencing it? And being open to the idea that even just thinking or breathing or smiling can be a form of play for some people. And any stimulation at all of our senses, any time that we are taking in information and noticing we're taking that in, that can all be considered play. And remember, we're not just talking about the five senses here. We're also talking about that sense of everything being okay, the sense of order or the sense of control or the sense of chaos or all of those other things that we can perceive in the world. And the order, the understanding, being open to understanding without understanding. So actually we're subconsciously understanding things about the world, but we don't have to know consciously that we're understanding anything. Learning does not have to be a conscious endeavor. In fact, when it is unconscious, it's at a deeper level. So we're going to get to that eventually. So what makes play play? We're already spreading our boundaries, our possibilities for what play can include, but experiences that we can control for ourselves. It's important that we are having the urge to play and the urge to stop and the urge and desire to do whatever it is that we're wanting to do with the play. That's part of what makes play play. The urge comes from within us rather than being told to play. Right, now you have to play. And we have a knowing, if we're tuning in with ourselves, we have a knowing of when to start, when to stop, when to move on, when to adjust the play. Usually play creates pleasurable, calming feelings. Sometimes play can be very exhilarating, and that exhilaration can then settle to a sense of calm and peace and yes, I've done it, and enjoyment, appreciation of the experience had. And it's about focusing on the experience rather than letting our judgments and fears get in the way and pervert the course of our play. Being truly free to play, we do not have those voices interrupting what we're doing and trying to move us in another direction. We do need, of course, some sense of, is this appropriate in the moment? And as we get older, we get better at working with that. Is this hurting other people? Is this interfering with other people's experiences of life? Yes, we need to manage those, and we will support our children to do that. However, sometimes we take it all a little bit too seriously. Could we just let the thing happen? Could we let the play occur, even though it doesn't quite fit some of society's rules and expectations? Sometimes society's rules and expectations aren't something we want to be having our children bowing to. So yeah, something to consider there. Anything enjoyable that we're doing, anything that we find we say to ourselves, oh yes, this is feeling good. or that anything that we choose to perceive as enjoyable or playful, anything that gives us that sense, that is play. We do not need money for play. We do, however, need time and self-determination. So being able to choose what we're doing. Self-selected play is the ideal sort of play. Play is an attitude, you know? If we think of that in neon lights, play is an attitude. That's how anything can be play. We can create play in anything. There's a beautiful movie about a man and his son in a concentration camp. And the father, he creates this play environment for the child so that the child doesn't experience the concentration camp as scary and awful and dreadful. And it's absolutely beautiful movie. I encourage you to watch it. I think it's called It's A Beautiful World or Beautiful Life, something like that. We can create play out of anything, literally. Thinking about this in a real life example, often we've got a job roster. In our family, we've had a job roster since my youngest child was 2 and the oldest one was 7 and came home and said, right, we need a job roster. She got the idea from school. So we created a job roster. And what we've done through the years is keep it fun, keep it light as much as we can, keep it playful, keep it enjoyable rather than you have to do this. Else, you're only after this are you able to play. We can create play out of all the jobs in the roster. And now the first part of that is our attitude to how we talk about the roster. Do we say, oh, there's all these big jobs to do, oh, this is terrible? We can say, hey, who's on the washing? We've got the washing to do, woo! And we can toss the washing in the air. We can play a game of how fast can we sort the washing out. We can learn new ways of folding and practice, come up with different ways that we can fold the washing. And maybe we can create an adventure out of taking the piles of washing to each person's space in the house. There are ways to make anything playful. So think about our attitude, think about the words we're using, the body language. How are we portraying this experience? Are we portraying it as playful, or are we portraying it as a real drudge job, as a real issue? Anything can be play. We can reframe even the job chart as play. Okay, so now you'll have quite a big list of what it is that different types of play can be, and what are the things that actually make play play. And we can start looking for those signs for ourselves and looking for them in our children over the coming days. And so we can support play to flourish even more in our families. Now it's time to look at how we actually learn, how our brain and body are capable of doing this thing called learning. And we now know, we've known for a long time that we do this through play, but we need to really know this, not just at this cognitive level, but really know it in our body, so that when we're actually engaging in play and we're seeing our children engaging in play, we can get at a heart and gut level, this is important for them. I need to support this process. So we've talked about the different parts of the brain. We've got the brainstem, the limbic system, and the prefrontal cortex. So this is the thinking part, feeling and emotions, and our memories, and survival part of the brain. Now, when we're building up our brain, we do that from the base up. This part is complete at birth. This part becomes more and more strong during the early years of childhood. And then after around about 7, we start to really notice this thinking, cognitive, logical, problem-solving part of the brain coming online. So the play begins right in here. This is where the urge to play, the desire to play, is actually being created. And knowing that we can play, that sense that we can learn and we can play, and coming up with that, acting on those desires that come up into this part of the brain supports this thinking part of the brain to be making sense of the world as well. Now, we're making sense at all levels of the world, mainly in this limbic system in terms of the deeper unconscious ways of understanding the world, and then the more logical thinking, fact-based learning on the top here. The learning that we do in here becomes just what you do. It becomes part of the being, whereas this is the part that we can describe and talk about. And that's fine, we need that part. We also need to know and feel play and learning at a very, very deep level. So young children are really focused in this area. Children before the age of about 5 or so are really focused on building this part of the brain. And the thinking, consequences, cause and effect, logic parts of the brain are building well as well. Now remember the stress response. When we are feeling stressed, it's really difficult to think straight, and it makes it difficult to learn the things that we are wanting to learn. This part of the brain might go into hyperarousal with emotions, so that might block other learning that's going on in here. If we're in a negative state of stress, it can be filled with negative talk as well. I can't do it. I'm no good. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. I'm not able to handle this on my own. And those are some of the internal messages that start to become embodied in our young children quite early on. If we restrict or try and redirect the way they're playing, if we tell them they're doing it wrong, if we create a stressful, pressure-filled environment. So ideally, our children are in a fully calm state, having access to as much of their brain as they've been building and creating and connecting up over the years that they've been alive. So we need to create an environment that is calm, relaxed, non-pressured. We will do a beautiful job of learning through repetition over and over again, even if we think, oh, they should know that by now. Why are they still doing that thing? They'll move on when they're ready. They'll move on at a time when they've learned all they need to learn from that scenario. It's like our children lying on the mat, little babies, before they're rolling and before they're up on their hands and knees and going. They'll do the different movements over and over and over and over again. And when they've done those movements enough, they'll begin moving in other ways and start trying different movements. They know when they're done, and then they're ready to move on. And everyone's in their own time with that. Everyone's doing their learning in the way that works best for them. So keeping in mind that we're trying to create a calm, non-pressured environment for play, letting children do things in their own time, in their own way, self-selecting what they're playing, how they're playing, how long they're playing. Now, I know this doesn't work 100% in the real world. Yeah, got it. There are times we will have to interrupt, we will have to redirect, we will have to change things up a bit and interfere. However, those times that we don't need to, let's practice holding back and keep our pressures and our expectations out of it. Let them do what they need to do. That's how the brain is designed to work. Ideally, we need to be calm to truly be playing. And interestingly, when we're truly playing, we will create calm anyway. It's a cycle, a beautiful cycle. So trusting that our children know what they need to do and giving them that space and that support to do that in a calm way. When they're playing, as with us, when we're playing too, positive chemicals are released in the brain and the body and help make that learning process even more effective and, gain a deeper understanding of the learnings available in that moment of play. So supporting our children to really get into that true state of play so that they've got those chemicals released through their body, through their brain, and they can make the most of each learning situation. So again, allowing our children to self-select their play, Children's play needs to not be generated by the adults. We might provide the tools, we might provide the ideas around them, but let's not push those onto the children, not saying, hey, you have to do it like this. This is really how you use this game. This is really how you create this model. Letting them do it for themselves. If they come to us and ask us for our advice, we can offer that. Try to not take offense if they don't use our advice, if they don't use our ideas. They did it in a bouncing their ideas off us. We gave them our ideas, and then they've come to their own decision. We can offer our thoughts. However, remember that when we offer them, there's often an implicit expectation that our children will take that on, and they feel that. They feel like they should do what we're telling them. And we want them to not have that pressure. So let's practice backing off, and also being there. So we back off, we keep out of it, and we're there for them when they are ready and when they call for us. And even then, sometimes they call us and we can actually hold off coming in, and we can say, I think you've got this. You've got this sorted. I'm going to stand here and help. I can join in when you're ready. I'm here if you really get stuck. How about you try it again? Or we could just drop a couple of words in. So we're trying to do the minimum that we can to keep the play flowing without taking over, without giving them too much. So trying to hold off the need to comment on their play, to praise them or redirect them. We don't need to do that. And in fact, when we start doing that, and if we do that regularly, our children start to think there's something wrong if we're not doing that. They can become addicted to our reflection, our judgments about their play. Whereas we'd actually like them to be reflecting and judging their own play. So if we can hold off our additions unless they are necessary. So that's a bit of a challenge for us adults, to hold off and let our children develop their sense of the world without us trying to create it for them. Our ideas about the world are not the truth. They're not the whole story. They're not the full picture. Let them have a go. We can add ideas in. However, they'll create their own view of the world. And over time, they'll match somewhat with ours, probably most of the time. Actually, having said that, we probably want some quite different views of the world coming through in our next generation, because our current ways of working in the world, in my opinion, not really working that well. We don't have a particularly happy world. There need to be some new ideas. So let's not be attached to our ideas being right and our views of the world being the correct ones. Allowing children to play for their own sake and experience the experience just for the experience. It doesn't have to have a purpose. It doesn't have to have a goal in mind. And they will create their own purpose unconsciously, quite probably, and that's fine. Letting them find out what they need to find out from this play experience. Having talked about all that, take a moment to write down something that you're going to commit to doing to support your children's play. When you've finished, come back. Okay, so continuing on our understanding about the importance of play for humans. Play is not just for young children. Throughout our whole life cycle, we can all benefit from playing, all of us, in any moment of every day. So allowing ourselves to be in that state where our body and brain are calm and most open to learning. That's what play creates for us and for them. And we're taking in information through our five senses and through our other senses as well, through our energizer, our energy receptors, and through our gut instincts, and through all sorts of senses that we're actually not consciously aware of. We're taking that in and using that to make sense of ourselves, others, and the world. This can't be forced or rushed, and it is a slow growing and an iterative process. And what someone learns at the bottom level may not bear much resemblance to what they're learning when they build on top of that. However, that bottom foundational level was really critically important. Us adults, we often make assumptions about what children need to be learning, and it needs to be something up here. We forget that there's all these other layers that need to be learned and need to be worked through before we get to that top understanding. And we rush our children to get there, and then they don't really fully understand the basis for that understanding. So allowing this to be a slow building process throughout the whole brain, all levels of the brain. And everyone knows what they need to learn right now, unconsciously. The brain knows what it needs to be working on. It knows what it needs. And it's trying to find the expression of that suits. So here we have sometimes a problem where the expression of what we need to learn is not appropriate to the family. It doesn't, it conflicts with the needs of the family. So maybe a child who's wanting to learn about gravity and trajectory and what happens when things hit on impact. So perhaps they're throwing things inside. Okay. So do we just stop the throwing and say that you can't throw, which then deprives the children of the chance to learn the things that their brain is craving to learn? Or we can find another way to express that urge to play, so they can still learn the information that they need and they have the understandings they need. Now, how can we do this? We can have them throw things outside. We could have them throw smaller things or softer things or whatever works for you in your family. So mixing it up, changing it up so they can still play. So can you take a look at your list that you've written up before? Now, if there are some things that you know your children have enjoyed doing, but they're really irritating for you, you find them a problem. Can you change things up so that they could still get the learning without doing it in a way that is really not working for the family? So in those situations, we've got a couple of options. One is we could decide not to be upset by the type of play that's happening and let that go. Secondly, we could choose to find another expression for the children and support them to play in a different way so they still get to learn what they need to learn. Take a moment to write those down and come back when you're done. Okay, now I want you to come up with another 10 ways in which we could be playing, in which our children could play, or in what could be called play. Another 10 now after that corridor. Come back when you're done. Now we're going to look at how we can create other ways of playing in the world. So can you see why we needed that big piece of paper? We're coming up with quite a list of what constitutes play. So we can inject play into our normal everyday experiences. Remember what I said before about play as an attitude. So anything that we are doing, ourselves or our children, we can turn that into play by simply saying to ourselves, I am playing. Now, we might need to do more than just say I'm playing. We might need to have a sense of lightness, let go the seriousness a little bit. We might need to actually put a smile, like embody play, put a little smile on our face and just say, yeah, wow, this is a really hard job I'm doing, and I'm going to be playful in the way that I do that. We can create an adventure out of it. We can make it like a challenge, an exciting challenge. We could look for the things that we are enjoying in this moment and try and bring more of that feeling of play and peace and enjoyment to the bits that we're not really enjoying so much. I remember my mother telling me how much she enjoyed doing the dishes in the mornings. She'd put her hands into that warm water, and my brother and I would be playing down behind her in the kitchen, and she had to do these dishes. Now, she could create that as a really big problem for herself, or she can see uh, what the enjoyment is in her body and her heart and her brain. And so she created dishes as a really lovely experience for her. We can do that in any moment of any day. So let's keep adding some more ideas as they come to you. Pause the video, add more ideas of how you can create more play and bring more play into your day. And how you can create more play opportunities by looking for what's around us and being creative, coming up with a little game that could be played, or a little sensation that could be experienced. Because remember, our sensory stimulation is all part of play. We can look at our chores and our work and our family rituals and the things that we have to do. I remember saying to my children when they were younger, "Oh, it's time for your nap. Oh, it's so lovely to get a chance to have a rest. Oh, this will be so beautiful for you." Rather than, "All right, time for your nap. This is hard work. I'm going to have a battle here," and thinking all of these things in our brain. So finding ways to change the attitude that we're coming to the experience with and create it as play. Now, here's a challenge for you to choose one thing you find really annoying in your day, something you find you really don't look forward to. Break that one down into things that could, parts of it that could become enjoyable if you were to change your attitude, or were you to notice that you actually enjoy little parts of it. So dig deep, look honestly, and come up with a way to create play out of something really that you're finding difficult. Come back when you're done. So a big part of our turning things into play is reframing the language that we use and changing from "I have to" "I can't wait to," or "I'm looking forward to," or "I want to." We can think about the language that we're using and notice, does it help us feel more playful, or does it help us feel resentful and frustrated and down and angry? Perhaps we can change the language up to have it lighter, more lifted, add a smile, even if we don't physically smile, although that is a very good thing to do. There's lots of research now showing that when we put a small smile on our face, not a fake grin, but just a light smile, it actually releases the facial muscles and actually takes less energy than frowning and holding on to the negative energy. So it can help lift our mood, calm us down, and really helps with play. So when things are really tough, try release a small smile onto our face. And the more we do it, the more natural it starts to feel. And thinking about play as also for others that are around us, no matter what their age. Perhaps we can invite others to join us in different sorts of play. We might need to create it so that a little child has got to step up so they've got access to the play. We might have to simplify the play. We might have to make it more complicated for those who are really wanting a bit more to be enjoying of the play. So come up with some ideas of how we can create more accessibility for children of all ages. Thanks. Now, I invite you to close your eyes and take some breaths and recall a time that you were playing on your own. Doesn't matter what you were doing, what was going on around you, what was the thing that you were doing that you would call play, that you were enjoying, that you were benefiting from. Remember, you don't need to know what you're learning consciously. If you are enjoying the experience, then it is play, it is learning, it is the most open form of learning. Think about what you were doing. What senses were engaged for you? What emotions were you experiencing? What was happening in your body? Was your body moving? Was it still? And what had you continue to experience that play? Like, did you let go of something that allowed you to continue on with playing? What might have stopped you playing? Did you internally have an urge to complete the play? Or was there some sort of external interruption? Was there an internal interruption where your brain kicked in and said, oh, this is silliness? I wonder what people would think. Take a moment now to write down what you came up with there. Come back when you're done. Now I want you to look around you in the room. What do you see? What takes your interest? What do you feel drawn to, even just slightly? What draws you to explore it more fully? Take a pause now and go and actually start exploring that item. Come back and I'll support you in just a moment with that. So I've grabbed this cushion here and have a think about how you could experience this object or a part of your house or wherever you are. How could you experience it with your five senses? So, I can touch it and experience on different parts of my body what it feels like to have this cushion here. What does it smell like? What sounds does it make? If you're brave, you can taste it. What's it like on your tongue? Yeah, cat hair. And thinking about all the different patterns, textures, do an explore of what it feels like through your senses. And then have a think about what you could actually do with it. So I can toss it around, put it under my arm, twist it around my body. Oh, that feels good. I like that. It's helping move my body. I can twist it different ways. Okay. Oh, and what will happen if I do this? Well, it's quite heavy to balance like that. Can I hold it underneath and have it stay up? Oh, no, didn't work. I'll try another way. Oh, I can hold it this way and it will stay up. So experimenting with the item. Now, you might notice that your play urge might be calling you to try different things, or it might not be a loud voice. It might just be just a sense of you just do these things and then you think, oh yeah, that was nice. Or, oh, that didn't work. I invite you to ignore the voices that say, oh, this is dumb. What if someone sees me? Or am I doing it right? Try and ignore those thoughts and feelings. If it feels in any way satisfying, then it's just perfect. And then once you've had enough, you can stop. And then find something else to play with until you feel ready to return here. Have a go at seeing how things interact with each other. Got a pen here, wonder how I could use this pen. Is it going to hold up the pillow? Oh. So see what happens when you try different things out. There's a zip here. So I invite you now to go and have a bit of a play and use as many things as you like, as many items as you like. Use them together, use them separately, use them with your body. And then when you've had enough, come back. Go on, have a play. Now that you're back, I want you to write down any words that could describe your play experience. Now, keep your judgments at bay. You don't have to judge the words that you're using. Just write down any word that came to you. No one needs to read this. Try and get rid of your assumptions as well. Don't, perhaps steer clear of trying to assume what it is that you're learning or why this is good for you. Just let it be. Write the words down that you're noticing. Now, if any judgments and assumptions come along, do feel free to notice them and then let them go. There really is no space for judgment and assumption in play. Keep it to the facts of the experience from your own perspective. How did it feel? What was satisfying about the play? Now, if you're tempted to say that there was nothing satisfying about the experience, then I invite you to try the activity again. Perhaps what you chose wasn't really what you're interested in after all. Perhaps, perhaps your thoughts were getting in the way, maybe. So I invite you to go and have another time try and play, and go into your body and experience the experience solely for the experience. Come back when you're done. Now I want us to have a play experience using our own bodies, playing with our own selves, and appreciating the pleasure that's possible on our own body. Now, what we want to do is repeat what we did in the last section with getting an item and playing with it and exploring, but do this with our own body. So choose some part of your body, perhaps your hair or the skin on some part of your body, or your breath outwardly or inwardly, and have a play with those. If you're needing some inspiration to start you off, then remember the game that we used to play with our little children, and you may have children you do this with now, where we take their hand and we say, round and round the garden runs a teddy bear, one step, two step, tickly under there. Yeah. So what I invite you to do is just take your hand and twirl your finger around your palm. Now, what do you notice there? What do you like about that feeling? What feels good? What doesn't feel good? Notice. Now, maybe you can start on the outside of the palm and you can come inward in a spiral. Maybe you could make it a very, very tight spiral, or maybe you could make it a much more loose spiral that goes backwards and forwards. And then what if your finger started exploring different parts of your hand? And what if you switched hands and used the other hand? Now, this is play. This is us enjoying the pleasure of gentle touch, self-directed touch on our own body. Now, notice any blocks or concerns that you might have. Now, in particular, we might start coming up with questions throughout all of these experiences like, oh, what's all this about? What's she on about? What's the point? Now, with these, I invite you to actually not treat them as rhetorical questions, but actually ask the question to yourself or other people, what is all this? Like, really, what is all this? Answer that question. What am I talking about? What am I trying to get across? What's the point? What is the point? What is the point we're trying to get here? And actually answer the question rather than chucking it out to the universe as an attack on other people, an attack on ourselves. Doesn't serve any useful purpose to just throw those questions out. So when you find yourself saying those things to yourself, actually stop and answer the question. Now we'll come back to how you've been exploring your own body. Have another go at doing that. If you did the circle on the hand, let's get a bit braver. What's another part of your body that you'd really like to explore? Some people quite like their ears being touched. And there's quite a lot to explore in our ear. Okay, you could do that with your different hands, not just the one. There's lots of parts of our body. So take some moments now and explore playing and the pleasure of your own body. Okay, we're nearly completing this workshop. Now, we've talked a lot about play coming from an internal urge that calls to us. And when we are truly playing, we experience true, deep pleasure. And the more pleasure we're experiencing, the greater the learning opportunity, the greater the possibility that we've actually gained something really, really positive from that. So allowing us to get that when a child is playing, there is a possibility of great pleasure there in many, many ways. And the more they're allowed to experience that pleasure, the greater their learning possibility. Even if we don't understand what it is they're learning, if we can't actually have them say, "This is what I learned today, Mum," it's a deeper level learning. It's that foundational building blocks, the foundational part of the wall, that when they become older, they'll be able to build on this sort of cognitive learning on top of that. And we're all working in both these areas all the time. We can continue to build our understanding of the world and others and ourselves throughout our lives. Let's do a real check-in here. So what do we need to be responsible for to support our children with their play? So we can be responsible for our own play and enjoying what feels good for us. We can also be responsible for resisting the urge to interfere with others' play and for giving them the space and the support that they need and really understanding what's important for them in that moment. We can be responsible for actually asking those questions that could be often left as rhetorical. We can now look at our energy. Now, being curious about something, having a sense of wonder, creates lots and lots of energy. We can also be curious about our self-talk and any resistance that we may in the past have let shut us down. This can instead be translated into a curiosity and a wonder and help us be energized through that moment of difficulty. Play in itself will energize us as well. And supporting others to energize themselves, allowing unlimited play, play without expectation, without purpose, other than to experience and enjoy the play. We can also be very aware in ourselves of what's happening in our head, in our heart, or feeling parts of our brain and in our bodies. We can be really aware of where we're sabotaging our way of enjoying play or experiencing the pleasure of play. We might be actually really doing some damage to ourselves. So noticing that, noticing when we are doing that with other people as well, especially our children. Being aware of what others like to do with play. Being aware of the critical importance of play. It's not a treat, it's not an optional luxury extra, it's necessary for our learning, for our complete development. We can notice when we're playing, or we can notice also the resisting the urge to play, and we could maybe let go of that resistance. And we can notice our assumptions about what others may be learning or gaining from the play and remind ourselves that those are not the truth. So lots of awareness building we can create there. And aroha, love. We can consider what feels really good about play and love ourselves enough to let us engage in play every day. Ideally, every moment of every day. But let's just start with at least once a day, engaging in really pleasureful play. And then understanding what other people and supporting what other people find to be playful. Of course, as long as people are not being hurt and not being having their play interfered with by someone else's play. We do need to set boundaries, and that's where we use our assertiveness and our patience and our understanding about how long it takes to build and learn these understandings. We can be the thinking part of the brain for our children and help them set reasonable boundaries around their play. However, let's expand those reasonable boundaries to include what we've previously thought of as unreasonable boundaries, some of them at least. expansiveness. We can assume the best intentions of ourselves and others while playing, and this is a form of love. And thinking about and feeling into how you can both have fabulous play experiences together with your children, either separately or together, and create a sense of connection through mutual playing. I've just thought of a beautiful way that mutual playing can occur that I may not have mentioned previously: massaging each other. When I was very ill with my with my youngest child, I was ill with all of them, but with the youngest one, I had two under fives, and I sometimes felt too sick to get up out of bed or off the couch. And so I had a bag where they could go and get the bag, and it had all sorts of lotions and creams and massage things and different things you can use for massaging. And I would lie there and they could just massage my legs or my hands or themselves or my face. And they would do this sort of play, which was incredibly nurturing for me, although, you know, children's massages, but it was still very nurturing for me. And amazing learning for them, and what a contribution they could make to supporting me when I was really struggling. So I encourage that. There's lots of other ways that you can play that I've listed and described and encouraged in Changing the World as Child's Play. So please do get that out and take that with you in your day so that you can create play out of anything that's going on in your day. And while you're doing that, know that you're making a positive difference on the planet. So we have some challenges for you. What is a new play experience that you can give yourself, that you can experience for yourself? And what can you reframe as play next time you're doing it? Something that you wouldn't have thought of as play before, but now you've got some ways of reframing, so you could change that up. What is a play experience that you could create together with your children? And what play experiences will you let your children get on with unhindered? And choose some experience that you're having with children that you'd really like to flow more smoothly. How can you inject some play and the play energy into it? Have a look through your list of all the things that could be play. One way is to add singing and a sense of joyfulness to everything that is being done. I get it doesn't always go 100% to plan. However, you'll have fun trying it out. I used to bring song to everything that I was doing with the children. There was a tune that just stated what we were doing. We're brushing our teeth. We're brushing our teeth. We're brushing, brushing, brushing our teeth. And we can say that for anything that we're doing. We're getting ready for bed, and just use the same tune or whatever tune you like. And I remember one day saying, Sophie, come and get your shoes on. And she very joyfully said, Mummy, no, 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 no. Now, we eventually got the shoes on and we had fun doing it. And she felt that she could engage in that playful, joyful way. Find ways that you can create to really work joyfully and beautifully with yourself and with your children. And forget what anyone else says is supposed to be play and how we're supposed to act. If it feels good and it's not hurting other people, go for it. Thank you very much for joining me today for this play shop on play and pleasure. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, so please do post that to me and let me know if there's anything I can support you with and help you create more play in your life and in your family. Thank you very much.